will leave The Hague and not return if released, while the Office of the Prosecutor appeals their acquittal. The former president of the Ivory Coast, Mr. Gbagbo, and youth leader Mr. Blay Goudet saw the case against them for 4 counts of crimes against humanity thrown out. Trial chamber judges believe the prosecution didn't provide enough evidence to prove that the speeches that the 2 men made in 2010 and 2011 were used to incite the post-election violence in which 3,000 people were killed in the Ivory Coast. Since being transferred to The Hague over 7 years ago, the 2 defendants have always insisted they're innocent. Rodrigue Dadje, the lawyer for Laurent Gbagbo's wife Simone, says the men are not too disappointed and that he is, quote, reassured they will come out of prison stronger and cleansed by a judicial process that's been fair and transparent. The appeals chamber of the ICC will convene on February the 1st to decide whether prosecution teams have enough of a case to restart the trial, or whether the case will be thrown out entirely and the men will be freed. Jack Parrick, CGTN, Brussels.
The epicenter of the current Ebola outbreak in the DR Congo is close to Uganda's border to the west. And with a lot of cross-border movements, local volunteers are playing a vital role in preventing the deadly virus from crossing into the country. CGTN's Michael Baleke spoke with the frontline workers helping families directly at risk.
Adam Mujenyi is a volunteer with the Uganda Red Cross. He has been doing this work for more than a year. And since the outbreak of the Ebola in the DR Congo, Adam has become influential in creating awareness about the deadly disease.
We should not do self-medication at home. We go to the hospital very fast. We treat immediately. One case may affect the whole country, may affect even my family. Because, like, for example, the Ebola that was here in the 2007, just one case affected the whole district. We lost our doctors. So I said, let me intervene. Maybe my efforts may become a reason of preventing Ebola.
Adam is part of a larger group of frontline volunteers spread across the 7 most at-risk districts bordering the DR Congo. Screening people crossing into Uganda for Ebola is part of their daily routine, but also an experience.
I just chose to sacrifice my life. I chose, because even life savings also choice. There are people who are there say, me, I cannot do with that. Red Cross, no, they do a lot of work, cannot pay, but me, my focus is saving people's lives.
I've learned to associate with people, different languages, different culture.
No cases of Ebola have been reported in Uganda yet, but the country remains on high alert with Ebola preparedness to ensure early detection and prevention. The Ebola disease has a fatality rate of up to 90% and has already claimed the lives of close to 400 people in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And these volunteers are trying to make sure it never crosses the border. However, being a volunteer comes at a cost.
We were abused. Others were saying maybe we are the ones who want to bring the disease in the community. So we had to teach them properly.
There is no doubt Ebola creates fear. The volunteers say most people here believe the disease is caused by witchcraft or a curse, and preventing its spread is at odds with many religious and cultural practices of the communities along the border. But volunteers like Adam are willing to take their lives to the front line to stop others from losing their lives altogether. Michael Baleke, CGTN, Bundibujo, Western Uganda.
Journalists in Ghana are calling for a swift inquiry into the killing of one of the country's investigative journalists, Ahmed Hussein Swale, who had uncovered corruption in Ghana's Football League, was shot dead in a suburb of the capital Accra on Wednesday night. His assailants have yet to be found. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
Ahmed Hussein Swale was shot twice in the chest and once in the neck while driving home on Wednesday by unidentified men on motorbikes. His murder comes just 4 months after a documentary was broadcast exposing corruption in Ghana's football industry. Mr. Hussein Swale had gone undercover for the piece, which led to FIFA handing a lifetime ban to the former GFA boss, Kwesi Nyantakyi. Following the broadcast, Ghanaian Member of Parliament Kennedy Ejapon exposed Mr. Hussein Swale and called for retribution against him. Journalists in Ghana say the murder of Ahmed is a blot on the country's press freedom.
For Ghana being seen as a beacon of hope and democracy across Africa, and for this thing happening here it's really sad.
And the Ghana Journalists Association has called for swift investigations into the murder.
We want the police to get to the bottom of this matter as quickly as possible. We also want the president to take personal interest in this matter.
Investigative journalist Anas Armiaw Anas has in a tweet said he and his team will not be cowed by the murder of Ahmed. The death of Mr. Hussein Swale brings the total of Ghanaian journalists killed in the last 12 years to 3, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Police say they've launched a full-scale investigation into Ahmed's murder, but so far the assailants are yet to be identified. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
All right, time now for another short break, but when we return. Tunisia seeks to boost trade ties with China. Nigeria and Brazil seal a $1.1 billion agricultural deal.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. The Tunisian government announced its will to boost trade ties with China. The head of the Tunisian Institute for Strategic Studies and the Finance Commission at Parliament have encouraged Tunisian companies to develop new partnerships with Chinese enterprises within the spirit of Belt and Road initiatives. CGTN's Adnan Chawalshi has this report.
The successful visit of Tunisian Premier Youssef El-Chahed to Beijing during the last Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit has encouraged many ministries and the private sector to strengthen cooperation with Chinese partners.
China is a very special economic partner. The success of the China-Africa Cooperation Forum reflects the economic power of China. The results of the high-level meeting are noticeable in Tunisia and all African states.
Tunisian parliamentarians and members of the Finance Commission here in Tunis assert that China's Belt and Road initiative is changing Africa. Many believe that Tunisia can become a platform for the export of Chinese industrial products to other African countries. MPs shed light on the importance of the Belt and Road initiative for the economic growth in Tunisia in the coming years.
The Belt and Road Initiative is the most successful economic project of the 21st century. Tunisia has a strategic geographical position in North Africa and the Mediterranean. It is the gate to Africa. Tunisian enterprises can take advantage from this situation and distribute Chinese cars, technology and textile and other products to Africa. It is a win-win partnership.
Experts in African affairs maintain that China can also contribute to infrastructure development in Tunisia.
Developing modern ports, airports, roads, bridges and highways is the main activity of giant Chinese companies. This is also part of the vision of the Belt and Road project. Building the Djerba Bridge, the Gabes-Zazes-Medellin railway line and the extension of the Zazes economic zone by Chinese enterprises in the south will revive the economy.
A Chinese delegation from the Tunisian Chinese Cooperation Council has recently expressed willingness during a meeting with the country's premier to cooperate with the authorities to rebuild the city of Takelsa, which suffered material and human damage caused by the floods in September 2018. Adnan Chawalshi, CGTN, Tunis.
Yet another attempt is being made to amend Kenya's deeply controversial rate cap law. A proposal has been made by a Kenyan legislator to change the rate cap to introduce a corridor above the cap, in this case 600 basis points above the cap of 13.5%, wherein banks and their clients can negotiate rates. Now, earlier, Ramanyang spoke to the Kenyan legislator behind the latest proposal, Moses Kuria. He started by asking him if his proposed amendment would compel banks to use credit scores to determine what rates they should be lending cash at. Let's take a look.
Even today, there's no negotiation. Everybody's on 13%. Yeah? So we're just giving a mechanism because it's customers who want negotiation. Because if you go to a bank and they tell you, I cannot give you a loan, because if I look at you, I can't give you at 13% or 13.5%. But the customer says, but I'm okay to pay 15% if you think I'm not that qualitative. So it is both ways, because negotiation is the act of going to the bank to look for a loan. Yeah. Is negotiation. Because there's nothing that is written on stone that you must get a loan. Right. But now we are giving an environment that makes a reasonable discussion between a customer and a bank.
Is that, again, I'm going to the drafting side of it, will that bill compel banks to use an individual's credit score as a first port of call to determine whether or not they should actually qualify for interest?
You cannot compel, because even today you cannot compel. You cannot compel. Yeah, you cannot compel. All we are doing is you are giving some window for market forces to take effect.
But fair enough. But
by the way,
if you have a credit score, but if you have a credit score, which exists, people have been building credit scores for years now. Why not use that?
Absolutely, and they still do. Banks do it, because even today, do you want to tell me that Safaricom borrows at 13%? No, they still negotiate with the bond. Do you want to tell me that EABL gets at the cap? They still negotiate with the bond. Because of that.
Yeah, but that's them. If I go into a bank, I go into a bank and I borrow cash, right, I'm going to be told, look, you're a single young man, no commitments, etc., etc. I'm going to give you a loan at 19%. My credit score doesn't come into it unless there's some sort of negative data there. And that's the main issue. People are saying that, look, the credit score isn't really translating into a lower rate.
By the way, the most important thing that this window is going to do is to encourage competition. So there's going to be competition. And this needs to be seen also in the context of the other things that we are doing. I've had consultations with Treasury, and they have enumerated for me 2 or 3 things, initiatives they are doing, including the portability of credit from one bank to the other without having to recharge your securities. Right. We did pass that law of creating a depository, a central depository for securities. They are coming up with one big bank that is going to prioritize credit to the SMEs, and most importantly, they are setting up a national credit guarantee facility.
Do we have any numbers on it at this point, or it's still in the formative stage?
We want to see what is going to put in the budget policy statement. I mean, the budget committee, so we are waiting to see, how much is going to put in there, and see, as Parliament, we have the power to increase, the facility. Right. Because I think it is important. Anything that is going to free up credit to the SMEs and to the private sector is welcome, because right now private sector credit is growing at 4%.
At the end of the day, you're still going to come back to the dilemma where you've got government that has been trying to drive growth and has been driving growth for the last 5 years or so. But if you're on the private sector to drive that growth, at some point, government has to take the shackles off, reduce the taxes, reduce the regulatory burdens, and so on and so forth.
The whole macroeconomic balance of all those variables, but I do agree with you. And that's the same concern that Cabinet Secretary for Treasury drew my way in terms of also rationalizing our expenditure. So it's going to be a raft of so many things required, including, rationalizing our expenditure.
Okay, but moving forward, and you and I were talking about this last year when the budget was being debated in the 3rd quarter in September and in October. And the sense I got from your fellow legislators was that there was this deep opposition to the idea of even letting banks essentially price credit. There was deep opposition then. Is it still the case? How do you convince them this time around?
I think I've found a lot of people have seen that this cap is not really, it is good from far, but far from good. I have seen more and more realization of that, because politicians and legislators are politicians. They react to what the people are saying. And right now we have got members of parliament who have had to pay bursaries for people who yesterday they had businesses and their businesses have collapsed because they can no longer get credit, so they cannot grow their business, they cannot even supply government.
The government of Brazil, the government of Nigeria rather, has signed a $1.1 billion deal with the government of Brazil. The pact is aimed at enhancing Nigeria's agricultural sector. Agriculture is currently the centerpiece of the West African state's economic diversification efforts. More on this in the following report.
An official partnership that will span for 2 years. Improving agricultural productivity is at the center of President Buhari's Strategic Recovery and Growth Plan. Under the deal, Brazil will finance agricultural projects, train farmers, and set a foundation for value addition.
Practically everything that you have heard of the Buhari administration has centered around agriculture. And I'm sure that we're going to hear a lot more about this focus on agriculture, because frankly we believe that we cannot bring our nation out of poverty, especially the large numbers of the poor, without significant investment in agriculture and of course mechanized agriculture.
An estimated 70% of Nigerians earn livelihood from sustenance farming, with little capacity to meet domestic demand in the food market. Consequently, Nigerians spent an estimated $12 billion on food imports. Buhari's government sees the expenditure on food imports as a waste of much-needed hard currency. The government also hopes the new venture will provide millions of jobs.
The initiative will contribute to create new jobs. We estimate around 5 million new jobs would be the impact of this initiative, reducing the rate of poverty, unemployment across the agricultural value chain.
Nigeria and Brazil have long-standing trade relations. Brazil largely imports crude oil from Nigeria, while Nigeria imports from Brazil range from farm produce to machinery. Trade volume between the two countries is estimated at about $9 billion annually. Hlanela Lupuwana, CGTN.
And to Rwanda now. Rwanda's biggest brewer, Bralirwa Limited, has started production of the world's second largest beer, Heineken. The production will take place at its plant in the country's western Gisenyi province. The move is meant to reduce retail prices and boost sales on the African continent.
Rwanda has received a major boost with the launch of Heineken production locally. Through its biggest brewer, Bralirwa Limited production is set to begin next month and is expected to cut retail prices by a fifth. Bralirwa Limited has been producing local beers like Primus while importing Heineken made in the Netherlands. Last year, the company announced that they had increased investment in the plant, allowing them to brew Heineken locally.
It took many months and many trials to get to where we are today. And it's not only here in Rwanda, it's also our global quality teams, our global production teams. People responsible to make the investments. Because we invested €9 million to get this thing up and running.
The locally made beer will be exported to neighboring countries such as Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo, as the brewer aims to meet growing demand. With the launch, the price per bottle of Heineken is expected to drop from $1.1 to $0.9. Many Rwandese are excited of Heineken's production in the country.
So for me, I'm proud that this Heineken is going to be produced in Rwanda. Secondly, it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be cheaper than the usual one, price-wise, so I'm happy.
Heineken is the world's second largest beer. Rwanda has joined other African nations such as Nigeria, Namibia, South Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia and Ethiopia to produce Heineken in Africa, hoping to boost its economy. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
Well, to Nigeria now, and after failing to make it across the Mediterranean Sea to Europe, a young Nigerian who is among those brought back from Libya has now rebuilt his life all over again. Sakiru Owolabi was repatriated from Libya last year with the help of the International Organization for Migration. The organization then put him through an entrepreneurship training program and later set him up in the business of furniture making. He is now earning a living from it. CGTN's Deji Badmus has that story.
He is one of the success stories of the International Organization for Migration's reintegration program for returnee migrants in Nigeria, and Shakiru is proud to flaunt it. The word IOM, carefully inserted on the signage of his business name, says it all. In 2017, Shakiru abandoned this very business for a supposed greener pasture abroad. He took the dangerous Sahara Desert route, making it to the seaside of the Libyan town of Saba, hoping to cross the Mediterranean Sea there into Europe. He and others were eventually arrested at sea while attempting to cross, ending his journey to Europe. And after spending almost 2 months in a Libyan detention center, the IOM helped to bring him and others back to Nigeria in January 2018.
I don't have any money with me when I come back, because I don't have anything, no hope, nothing. Don't have anything. It's my parents that used to feed me, my junior sister and my senior sister, my senior brother, my friends in Europe and in Nigeria. They used to give me money to eat. So no money with me. Then IOM give me some money to establish my business, extend my shop, then buy more machine, buy more equipment, more material.
Before setting up the furniture making business for him, the IOM had to take Shakiru and other returnees through a reintegration entrepreneurship training program where they received mentoring on how to run their own small businesses. Business is now looking up for Shakiru. He has a number of apprentices learning under him and is already planning to expand his enterprise. But he has this message for anyone planning to attempt the journey to Europe through the desert and Libya.
Anybody that wants to go to Europe, go in genuine way. Go and make your paper, go to the embassy. Go in genuine way, you fly. In a day, you confirm anywhere you are going to, or 2 days when you have stopover in any country. You want to travel, don't go by Libya route again.
His futile journey to Europe through the desert lasted for 7 months. Shakiru says those 7 months are terrible memories he would have to live with for the rest of his life. But he says he won't allow the experience to define him and that he would make the best out of his current enterprise. Deji Badmus, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
And to South Africa now, and after starting her tapestry studio in Swaziland, Marguerite Stevens moved to Johannesburg to chase her potential in the arts world. Spending years in the business, she produced artworks for the likes of renowned artists such as William Kentridge, Sam Legintwa, and Norman Catherine. A major part of the process includes more than a dozen staff who work as weavers from a nearby Johannesburg township of Diepsloot. CGTN's Yolisa Njamela has that story.
Tapestry is a form of textile art, traditionally woven by hand on a loom. It's weft-faced weaving in which all the warp threads are hidden in the completed work. Opened in 1963 as a branch of a carpet and curtain business in Swaziland, the Stevens Tapestry Studio moved to Diepsloot decades ago. Tapestries from the Stevens Studio are made primarily of mohair, a tough, luxurious fiber produced by Angora goats farmed in the Eastern Cape province as well as neighboring Lesotho.
Well, tapestry is a very old art. It's been going for many, many years. I think that the first tapestries that you can that are still in existence are around about the 12th century. And I don't think anything is new with tapestry. We do it exactly the same way as they did it then.
The studio has collaborated with a wide array of artists, always allowing them to experiment with the tapestry medium.
When I see wonderful artists like Walter Battis and Cecil Scottness, whose work I'm busy doing, translating here, And certainly William Kentridge, who we've worked with for the last 20 years. You can't compete with that caliber. So one doesn't waste everybody's time by doing work that I could possibly produce. So the art that we really sort of are involved with is our interpretation of putting a tapestry together that is somebody else's artwork.
The Stevens Tapestry Studio employs a team of local weavers. Diepsloot is a densely populated township in the north of Johannesburg. It's an area also known for high levels of crime and lack of service delivery. There's also very few opportunities for residents here.
We love working with them. We're so lucky to have them. And we're lucky to have the caliber of people we work with. And they're certainly extremely efficient, extremely dedicated.
Weaving is all about using your hands. It's all about just enjoying the art that is given to us. Weaving means being part of the art or just having fun of what you're doing.
The tapestries produced by the studio have been exhibited at numerous museums and galleries worldwide, including here at the Goodman Gallery in Johannesburg.
I think they're unique in that it's such a rare medium. You know, most contemporary artists tend to work in sculpture, in painting, drawings, and increasingly more in film and photography. And it's not a medium which many people are au fait with. And as I say, that it does have this ancient heritage as a medium. And I just think it's something that a lot of contemporary artists don't think about working in.
Stevens and her team of weavers create tapestries that range from wall-sized to absolute vast ones. Yudisa Njamela for CGTN in Diepsloot, South Africa.
Well, we've got Africa Live on CGTN. We've got your sports news up ahead. Here's a look at what's ahead. In sports, 2016 champions Mamelodi Sundowns looking to bounce back after a shock loss to Nigeria's Lobi Stars when they take on 2017 champions Wydad Casablanca.
Africa, where champions are made, records are broken, legends are born. We're there for every goal, for every knockout, for every step of the way. Match Point, only on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. We begin with African club football, where South African League champions Mamelodi Sundowns will look to bounce back from their surprise CAF Champions League defeat away to Lobi Stars of Nigeria when they take on former champions Wydad Casablanca in their second Group A clash on Saturday. Here's CGTN's CS Duplessis with more.
Mamelodi Sundowns coach Pitso Mosimane can be forgiven for complaining about fixture congestion. But when you are as successful as the Kleurkop club, the fixtures tend to come thick and fast, especially when you have continental club commitments and your club has ambitions of reclaiming their 2016 title.
I know it's difficult to change from CAF to league to cup game. It's difficult, but it's something which we have been doing for the past 5 years, and yeah, we're enjoying it. We're not complaining. Yeah.
The last meeting against the Moroccan outfit saw Sundowns lose 1-0 in Rabat, ending their run in the competition. But striker Anthony Lafort insists it isn't about revenge, and there's plenty respect for their opponents this weekend.
Yeah, they are a good team, you know. Those guys, they don't miss chances, you know, whenever they get one, they score. And I think we need to be very careful, but then they should also be careful because now we started scoring goals.
The reigning South African League champions know that they will need to improve after their outing in Nigeria, and that their fans will expect them to be victorious at the Lucas Masterpieces Moripe Stadium on Saturday night.
For us, I think we know what is expected of us, and it wasn't a good result we got. That's not the result we wanted to get in Nigeria, but it wasn't meant to be. We lost the game, and yeah, we're looking at the game which is coming, which is on Saturday as well. Yeah.
The 2016 champions insist that the disappointment of not reaching the group stages last season is long gone, and despite not getting off to a winning start in Nigeria last week, that they will find their rhythm soon, and visiting teams will find it extremely difficult to beat Masandawana at home this campaign. CS Duplessis, CGTN, Johannesburg.
And there is more football. Leon Goretzka scored twice to give champions Bayern Munich a 3-1 victory at Hoffenheim on Friday and cut Borussia Dortmund's lead to 3 points as the Bundesliga resumed after the winter break. Goretzka opened the scoring in the 34th minute when he latched onto a Robert Lewandowski's rebounded attempt to make it 1-0. The 23-year-old got his second goal in the first half stoppage time to complete a textbook counterattack. And the visitor superiority was reduced in the 59th minute by Nico Schulz's fine finish to make it 2-1. However, Lewandowski grabbed Bayern's third goal 3 minutes from time to seal the victory. And in boxing news, Manny Pacquiao and Adrian Broner passed the final test before this weekend's WBA welterweight title fight as both made weight on Friday night in Las Vegas. The now 40-year-old Pacquiao weighed in at 66.2 kilograms, while 29-year-old Broner tipped the scales at 66.45 kilograms at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. The fight on early Sunday morning will be the first for Filipino Pacquiao since he turned 40 last month, and a victory could open the door to a rematch with 41-year-old Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yes, it's my legacy to give a good fight and to accomplish all this, and especially at age of 40. This is my first fight at age of 40, so I had to prove something that Manny Pacquiao is still there in the path of boxing.
Of course, man. After I win tomorrow night, man, I'll be legend overnight, man.
And a bit of news from the world of tennis. Serena Williams powered into the fourth round of the Australian Open on Saturday with a 6-2, 6-1 demolition of Ukrainian Diana Yastremska to continue her charge through the Melbourne Park draw. Now the 37-year-old Williams, chasing a record-extending 8th Melbourne title in the professional era, barely broke sweat on a sunny afternoon at Rod Laver Arena as she sent 20 winners flying past the 57th ranked 18-year-old. Now, earlier on, birthday girl Angelique Kerber thrashed Australian wildcard Kimberly Barrell 6-1, 6-love to reach the fourth round of the Australian Open. Kerber took just 27 minutes to take the first set before closing out with a second with a forehand, and that will set up a clash with American Danielle Collins.
You know, it's another tough match. I mean, I'm really looking forward to playing match by match, step by step, and enjoying my stay here in Australia. I'm always looking forward to coming back, and I'm feeling so good here. So, you know, I have to play good tennis again, and I'm looking forward to playing the next round.
And in the men's event, a relived Marlon Cilic squeezed into the fourth round of the Australian Open in the early hours of Saturday after Fernando Verdasco double faulted on match point to allow the 6th seed to complete an epic comeback win. Cilic was pushed to the brink by Spanish veteran Verdasco, who had the Croat on the ropes in the fourth set tie break, but having fired 27 aces. Verdasco's serve let him down at the crucial moment, and he fell 4-6, 3-6, 6-1, 7-6, 6-3 after a 4-hour, 18-minute classic at the Margaret Court Arena. Well, that's it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. For the team, I'm Richard Sirolata saying thank you so much for watching, and we will be right back here same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.